2021. So that's what we put in the budget, and I'm sure a lot of people will be involved. So, we just wanted to share that with you so you know where we're headed. So hopefully it makes sense. Okay, next topic. First of all, we as an HOA board want to make it very, very clear. This is a CDD project. We try to communicate on their behalf because we don't feel the communication is adequate. But the latest information that we have is 64% of the community has been done. And what does that say? Complete is in yellow, and to be completed is in green. And we'll discuss it in a second. And the original budget approved by the CDD, based on estimates from their engineer, was $3,485,000. There's been some change orders, plus or minus. Over the last 2 weeks, in anticipation of this meeting, and as homeowners wanting to know, we kept asking repeatedly, how much will it take to complete this project? And you all heard at the CDD meeting last month that the number was what, $700,000 or $750,000. A couple of weeks later, it went up to $1.5 million. 3 days later, it went up to $1.8 million, where it stands today. But that's what they say, and I'll have you know, they never tell you, on top of these numbers, you have to add another 7.5%, which is paid to the county appraiser's office, as a management fee or a fee for this work. So that's where it stands. I don't know how far I should go in terms of looking at it, but that's kind of, I'll turn it over to, here's the tough part, so I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
For those of you who were at that September 18th meeting that the CDD held, where they indicated they had run out of money, therefore run out of rock, the project is 64% complete, 36% yet to be completed. Several streets on the west side of the quarry, Slate, Copper Rock, Copper Canyon, and a few streets over on the east side of the quarry, Stone Lake as well. So we said in that meeting, they asked the QCA if we could help fund this project, because they said they had no means of getting any more money because their budget had just been set. And they wouldn't be able to get that money until next year at this time in 2019, and therefore the project could not be completed until 2020. If the HOA was able to get the monies, then at the time when they were talking about $700,000 to complete it, that would have meant about a $722 assessment for each homeowner. That perhaps was reasonable, but since the project has now grown because of Jerry's insistence to their engineer, Josh Evans, as to what exactly is it going to take. He told us about $700,000, but if we do this, it'll be a one-time opportunity because we can't keep going back to the well. So at Jerry's insistence, he put together a spreadsheet and told Josh Evans, you complete this. So as he started thinking through these items, which I have no idea why he didn't think through these items when he presented in the September 18th meeting, that bill went from $700,000 to nearly $1.8 million. And that doesn't even include the 7.5%, as Jerry notes here, for the county, for them to take the fees that they collect for early tax payment discounts and placing it on a tax bill. So at that point, the QCA board in our discussions, and believe me, we were talking to our attorneys as well, because as our attorneys told us, this is really unprecedented. In no other community or tax law, legal law that they could see, had a CDD come to an HOA to request money to complete a project that they were in charge of. The attorney did say that perhaps under Florida statute, I think he said 72308, that if people receive special services in some respect over others, that you could charge people different amounts, would take, he said that's kind of stretching it, in his opinion, we could be challenged, and it would take a vote to change our governing documents, because as all of you realize, when we do a special assessment, we take that special assessment and we divide it by 900 homes. That's what Florida statutes tell us we have to do as an HOA. The CDD doesn't do that because they're permitted to charge based on stormwater runoff. That is by lot size. So condo owners pay less than homes. Some homes pay less than custom homes. Golf pays some of this, beach club pays some of this, because it has to do with stormwater runoff. That's why when they first took on this project that they estimated would be $3.45 million, each of you received an assessment that you will now be seeing in your tax bills here come November that's supposed to be paid over the next 15 years. So like in my case, it's $455 extra per year for the next 15 years. That was under their $3.45 million project. That project has now grown, as we've said, another $1.8 million. So it would take too much risk on the part of the HOA to be able to raise these monies. We'd have to go through a vote to charge people differently, because we know people that live in the condos they want to be treated like they are under the CDD. They want to, if you're going to be charged for a CDD project, they want to pay for it like a CDD project, not just divide this amount by 900 homes. So the most important reason why is that we would end up continuing a project where we, the QCA, are suing the very engineer who is doing this project. And as many of you know, who attended any of the CDD meetings, for the past 3.5 years, we've been begging the CDD to not use Josh Evans as their engineer of record. Josh Evans built this original shoreline, the majority of it. He had documents on his website bragging about how much money he saved Pulte in his design of this shoreline. And this shoreline was failing much prior to the hurricane. And the CDD never accepted that. And so the QCA took it on. And we hired third-party engineers, thanks to Dr. Thomas and his leadership in that regard. We hired companies that proved that this shoreline was not built correctly. And this lawsuit was filed. And now the CDD is asking us for money to help continue their project. We can't do this. We can't do it because it's fraught with issues. And so we have made the decision that we are not going to fund this project. It's the CDD's project. As I said earlier, the other problem is if it was just continuing the 36% that isn't built right now, that's one issue. But the problem is we believe through our engineers, our homeowner experts that did mining engineering for a living, they're professional engineers who have been involved in this project from day one, and I'll mention them, Mr. Stan Olin and Mr. Jim Kinsler have been invaluable to us throughout this process. And Stan doesn't live here full time, he's here right now, and he toured this the other day. He got on a boat because you can't really know how bad the shoreline is until you get on a boat and see it. We are really certain that this shoreline is not built to specs, but we are going to engage, the HOA is going to engage a geotechnical engineering firm as a third-party engineering firm to come out and evaluate how this shoreline meets specs. And then we will go from there. We will go from there to decide what needs to be done, because the CDD is not responsive to us only to ask for money, unfortunately. They are not responsive to us regardless of how we try to send letters to them, comment about the issues. They didn't believe this was built wrong to begin with. A good example is the top of Bank, which really never came up in the original shoreline construction. The top of Bank specification, which Josh Evans said did not change from 16.5 feet to today's height under this B2 design option that we're having on the lake right now, is still 16.5 feet. And there are areas that look like they're 13 feet. And there are areas that if you detach the dock and you put it in the water, and it was built right the first time at 16.5 feet, when you go to attach it, reattach it after it's been reconstructed to the same spec, why can't you attach it? And that's the problem we had here. They said it was due to unforeseen circumstances. There are no unforeseen circumstances when you engineer a job properly. Yes, Diane?
Sure, correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers. I recall you hired, our HOA, hired an engineer by the name of Josh for roughly $40,000 to oversee this project. What happened with Josh number 2?
Yes, that's Josh Maxwell from Terrell Hall and Associates. And the CDD accepted a proposal from him for engineering services. And his estimate for engineering services was considerably higher than Josh Evans. And the CDD said, no, we don't need to do that because Josh Evans has all the history. He knows he knows everything about the board. He's been here since 1998. He worked here before this place was even developed. He knows everything, and he knows what the conditions are underneath the water. Josh Maxwell from Terrell Hall, his proposal, which was more expensive, included a bathymetric analysis, which was a side scan which would have shown what the subsurface conditions were like. As a result of not doing a bathymetric scan, perhaps, is why they ended up needing almost three times as many rocks as they initially projected.
Right, I remember that. But Josh number 2, didn't he cost us $30,000?
I don't know what he ended up being charged because the CDD is covering all the bills,
He
but
was hired by our HOA.
no, he wasn't hired by our HOA. He was hired by the CDD.
Josh number 2. not
Josh number 2, yes, he was not.
So we didn't pay Josh number 2 nothing.
No.
Our HOA.
We are going to be paying Josh number 2 $1,250, most likely on Wednesday of this week, to come out and analyze our lakes and to look at the markers underneath the lakes to let us know when it may be okay to resume full-speed boating on Stone Lake. We're going to have a good engineer, a marine engineer, who can tell us when full boating can be reinstated on Stone Lake.
And while you're on that subject, the CDD is not maintaining Boulder Lake either. And any of you boaters here, I suggest don't even take your boat over there. We've been towing and pulling boats out. It's terrible. It's about 60% weeds. And now this Sunday, they installed a barrier under the bridge. So right now, as of the time I left for this meeting, the barrier was still up, so you cannot take your boat to Heritage Bay either. In the letter that was sent to our HOA in July of 2017 stating they were going to place up a barrier and that they were going to notify our HOA so we could inform the boaters that they could not boat there, but we did not hear from our HOA, so I'm assuming they did not notify us as stated in the letter that they sent to you.
No, I've had recent communications with Ed Hubbard, the CDD manager at Heritage Bay, and included in our recent voting resolution where we passed that we would resume full idle speed boating on Stone Lake and full speed boating on Boulder and Heritage Lakes. He had a big section in there what they were going to be doing to address the Illinois pondweed.
Well, the letter that they sent to our HOA states the only thing they're doing is the east part of Boulder Lake. They do one strip in front of the bridge, period. They are not touching the entire lake from the letter they sent you last year. And I don't think the community had the opportunity of seeing that letter. I talked to Adam about it, so he did give me a copy, and I just sent it to the board today, just to
Yes, I
remind
saw
you. But I feel our board should be sending Ed Hubbard, who I emailed yesterday, and he answered back to me to refer to this letter that states they are not going to do anything with that lake. So at this point, those two lakes are not votable at this point.
Any other questions? Yes, Jerry?
If the contracts with the engineers and the construction company are with the CDD board, correct?
Yes.
What is the CDD board, to our knowledge, doing to hold the engineers and the contractors responsible for the errors that they've made?
To my knowledge, you have to ask the CDD board that. I would suggest to everyone in this room, you should be present at the next CDD meeting. They canceled their last CDD meeting because frankly, they have no money. They have to pay their attorney to be on that phone call. They have to pay their manager to travel. They said they had nothing to add. We, through Jerry, demanded that they send and respond to our homeowners how this project grew from $700,000 that they said in the September meeting to the $1.8 million, which Josh Evans had us send a letter to homeowners this past week. Basically, it's these same numbers, and he offers reasons why. But what he failed to mention in that letter was that he originally bid this contract at $3.45 million, and he's bragging about saving money because they switched from going from a linear foot to a tonnage contract. So, you know, he should be commended, I guess, for saving us $1 million by making that change, but not going so far over budget. And we don't even know if this is the end of it. That was also one of the scary reasons for the HOA. Yes, John?
Cheryl, how come you can't put pressure on the Heritage Bay Umbrella Association to maintain the proper level of the lake? We're spending all this money inside the quarry, and we can't control the level of the lake. It's on somebody else's property.
We don't control the level of the lake.
That's my point. You're asking us to spend all this money.
No, but no one controls. It's run by gravity.
It's run by the weirs over on...
The weirs control the gravity situation, and I understand there was a blockage, and you brought this up at many meetings. There was a blockage before the hurricane. There were a few people, Chip was one of them, and Ron Rex cleaning it out because it was blocked. They put a new structure in on Heritage Lake. The changes to that structure on Boulder Lake is going to happen in the February-March timeframe when the water levels run lower.
As you know, the water level is still 1 foot over the level of the weir over at Heritage Bay.
Right now?
Right.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yes, Diane?
I would just like to give you my observation. My feeling is Heritage Bay would like our boats not to be boating in their lake.
Correct.
They had that barrier up Sunday, the biggest boating day for anyone is Sunday. And even if it wasn't there, you're most likely not going to get past the weeks to get there anyway. So I feel that that is their goal, is to prevent us from boating on those two lakes. So that's just my personal feeling. And I think our HOA should be sending a letter to to Ed Hubbard, as he sent to you last year, talking about the weeds and the lack of maintaining the lakes that they're responsible for.
We will be in contact with him again. Yes, Don?
Cheryl, what is the game plan here? What are we doing?
Well, we're going to have, several of us are going to meet with a couple geotechnical engineering firms tomorrow up in Fort Myers. And if we end up signing a contract with them, as soon as they can get out here and provide us with a report for how this lake stands up to the specifications, then we'll have to decide what we do as a community.
Well, that means another special assessment to cover this, or another lawsuit, which would...
It's not going to be a special assessment from the HOA. This is a CDD's project. If there is a lawsuit, it would be on behalf of the owners because the CDD isn't going to sue itself.
But can we sue the CDD? Is that possible?
Under the Florida statute, it does say that CDDs can sue and be sued, but no one seems to be able to really give us a definitive answer on that. So, depending on this report, we will then advise you accordingly about what we think needs to be done.
Did you say you're doing another wave study?
Yes,
So
Wednesday.
No,
Not a wave study. Huh?
it's a shoreline evaluation.
Right,
Yes.
but didn't you do that after the hurricane?
We did that in January.
Okay, so you're doing the same thing again?
No.
Basically the same thing again, but it's not going to be all those boats. It's going to be more, it's not going to be as complex as what he did in January. It's more about shoreline erosion and the water level. Yes, Jerry?
I just wanted to commend the QCA board for taking some action and trying to get this engineering study going, because it's hard for us as 900 owners to take action independently, and I think we do need the support and the leadership of your group, and I want to thank you for taking the first step to do that.
Okay. Okay, we're done. But I want you to think about this. You know, you hear a lot of bad news. Let me leave you with a little good news. You know, we will get money back. We will get money back from the roof. We will get money back from the lawsuit. How much, we don't know. Okay, you know, we do have the worst case scenario for lakeshore restoration. We may collect FEMA funds. So we're hoping that certainly in the next 12 to 24 months, these unusual items do get cleared up, and we're talking about a different subject. We're talking about what we do with the funds. Let's try to look forward to that, okay?
Wait a minute, one more announcement before everyone leaves. I just want to announce that we have completed our interview process for the general manager position for our association, and we have selected Miss Debbie Keel. She's currently Vice President of Operations at Associa Gulf Coast Property Management Services, where she's responsible for 21 professional cams and 145 properties. She has been with Associa for 3.5 years. She is now at their Tampa St. Petersburg office. She started in their Fort Myers office. She also serves as a controller and consultant for Black River Manufacturing in Port Huron, Michigan, which is a Tier 1, Tier 2 auto supplier. So she brings a lot of financial P&L experience as well as homeowner association experience. So her date is to be determined. We'll be sending out an announcement once we have that, her start date. But we hope all of you will welcome her. And we also want to thank Adam Radler for his service to our community and wish him well in his future endeavors. Thank you.
I'll have Adam attach it. Very good job. Send out the two job descriptions anyway. Good job. Absolutely great job.